This is part 2 of our review of Stranger Things Season 3, so if you haven't already, go check out part 1 as well, link in the description. This video contains spoilers, so consider yourself warned. Okay, first of all, the magnets. When the Russian nether portal is fired up, it uses a crap ton of power, and when overloading, it results in a minute-long blackout in Hawkins. In addition to this, the machine acts as an electromagnet, and as the machine overloads, the magnets in Hawkins are demagnetized due to the unstable electromagnetic field generated by the portal gun. It gets a bit complicated with the magnet science and all, but the big inconsistency in all this is how Joyce Byers is the only one to notice this. Like, not a single other soul notices how all previously magnetic objects just lost that property overnight. Second is how no objects surrounding the portal gun are drawn to it, even though it acts as a super magnet, and are rather pushed away by the shockwave of the machine overloading. Hopper's urge to split up Eleven and Mike out of nowhere just because, isn't that what dads do, is uncalled for and unnecessary. It does add to the relationship between Hopper and Eleven, which becomes important at the end of the season, but it comes across as a mere headless act to cause drama and a cheap way to create contrast between the struggles of everyday life and the apocalyptic struggles later on. It's also an inconsistency in Hopper's character development, as he's made sillier in Season 3 compared to before when his development was about becoming more understanding and mature. But now he takes every other given opportunity to work himself and others up. I mean really, after all they've been through, a bit of kissing is suddenly the end of the world? It's charming and all I guess, but the least they could do is make it consistent with his character. Hopper's behavior would make more sense if there was a bigger rift between him and Eleven, like in Season 2. They've knocked his character development back for no reason, like Season 2 never happened. Hopper's newfound childishness combined with Joyce and her cutesy-tootsy "Ew, I'm so angry" act contributes to the more family-friendly feel of the series, straying further away from the dramatic and thrilling feel that made the series a smash hit to begin with. Yeah, okay, there's blood and gore and a lot of things I wouldn't show to my kids, but the point is, it's not scary anymore. Countless choices and conclusions lack motivation or build-up, like the conclusions reached by Joyce and Nancy, who each solve an end on how to stop the Mind Flayer just like that. They're really jumping the gun by not having their characters investigate other possible avenues aside from the conveniently correct one on their first attempt. Eleven turns into a caveman at times.
Hey, what's wrong? Too many people. Against the rules.
It's true she's been deprived of socialization growing up, but she's also had time to adapt and assimilate to the way people talk, and they show as much in most of her scenes, so this is just really a weird inconsistency. Maybe a downside to having writers write one episode each like a f***ing chain letter. The Scoop troops translate Russian without knowing any closely related language.
And you're trying to translate, but you haven't figured out a single word because you didn't realize the Russians use an entirely different alphabet than we do. Maybe I can help. I'm fluent in 4 languages, you know. I can speak Spanish and French and Italian, and I've been in band for 12 years.
At one point, Will doesn't sense the Mind Flayer despite him being in the same building, while previously he'd sensed him from miles away.
He's back.
When gathered in the supermarket waiting for Eleven to do her thing, Max tells Lucas to be quiet, but seconds later they all carry on talking without heed for Eleven.
Hey!
Mike shouting stupidly at Eleven when her leg hurts.
Elle! 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 Elle, are you okay? Elle! Elle! Elle!
No mention made about how Susie's compulsive desire to sing with Dustin led to the death of Billy. Joyce and Hopper somehow know that shutting down the portal gun will result in everyone in the room getting killed, without having seen or heard about that happen before. And in the case that they actually would have known, it makes no sense for Hopper not to make a dash for the exit regardless if there's time for that or not. And then people plus clothes and equipment evaporate as the energy from the portal gun is exerted, but a bit of glass and the rest of the interior withstands it. Murray in a Russian uniform not getting arrested by the special forces in the secret Russian base simply by claiming he's American with only the accent to back it up.
Don't shoot American, we're Americans! Americans!
The scenes during and after Hopper's letter being read are in unchronological order. They pack up and drive off during the letter read, and then when it's done they're back in the house, then leave a second time. This one is particularly unforgivable. In a high-budget, world-class production like this, these things are a huge no-no. Missing out on misplaced props or items would be bad enough, but making the decision to have it this way in editing is just outright egregious. The other kids with superpowers from season 2 had no impact on the story even in this season. Last season they were a mere forced reason for Eleven to be away for an episode. This is definitely one of the biggest pieces of evidence that the show is going rapidly downhill. The indecisiveness of the writers is blatantly clear from this absolute storytelling crime, and they did nothing to save the situation in season 3. Nor actually, maybe hoping that people would just forget that plotline ever existed was the best way to go. There's no build-up whatsoever to the epilogue in which season 4 is predicted. It's just thrown in there to force another season. There's a strong hint at either Hopper or Dr. Brenner, remember him, being alive.
Не американцы.
But there's really no reason to believe that the writers have made up their minds about that based on all that's gone down so far. The auto-tune on Dustin during Never Ending Story was way too apparent. That's just bad production. On top of that, is it really possible to speak on each end at the same time with an RF radio? Where did the Russian hitman get his superhuman strength from? Was he just another generic tough Russian, or has he been enhanced somehow? What was that green liquid the Russians had? Did they use it to fuel the portal gun? Seems unlikely considering it has acidic qualities. But if not that, then what? All it amounted to in the end was a joke about drinking it, as well as being a colorful background prop. Why does Eleven see those exact memories when trying to locate Billy? Is the source of his connection with the Mind Flayer his biggest loss in life? Or his darkest memories of being mistreated as a child? These things could really use an explanation to make the point that otherwise loses his punch. Why does bringing up said memories bring Billy back from being corrupted by the Mind Flayer? It's a classic trick to appeal to the good person behind the veil of corruption in cases like these, and by classic I mean unoriginal. At least back it up with some preordained logic, please. Why does Eleven's superpower stop working again? She got infected by the Mind Flayer and she didn't get corrupted, but her powers disappeared. They're not backing this up with any preordained logic either. It's getting out of hand, and at this point really it's hard to argue why anyone should care about the show anymore. Hopper jumped through the nether portal and is still alive. He did spend some time in the Upside Down before, which would back the theory up. This could also lead to him communicating with the kids who, as we all know, are all about that shit. Eleven will spend most of next season without her powers, but retrieve them towards the end. Maybe Dr. Brenner might help with that, since he gave her the powers to begin with. It seems probable that she might go and save Hopper and manage it even without the powers, to prove that there's more to her than just being a telekinesis-enhanced human weapon, a topic discussed at length throughout season 3. In the epilogue we see some Russians talk about an American. This could, as previously mentioned, be Dr. Brenner, or maybe even Hopper in the case that there's a nether portal in Russia too, now that they know how to make one. Some characters are gonna break up and some are gonna fall in love. If they don't invest heavier into the actual progression of the story, they're certainly bound to carry on the tradition of pointless love dramas as well. We saw Nancy and Jonathan discuss being apart, and that one could go either way. Next season could start out with them working at long distance, just as well as them having broken up already. I would say season 3 leaves you with a bitter aftertaste, but in all honesty you could taste the bitter already back in season 2. The season comes across as a bad fan fiction filler full of nonsense and crowd pleasing. Apparently there will be at least 2 more seasons, and I don't see them making a turn for the better with what is probably tight deadlines and way too much positive feedback from the wholesome sheep audience that will enjoy whatever they put out as long as they get their yearly dose of 80s nostalgia and that cute toothless smile of Gaten Matarazzos. It's painfully clear that the one thing the producers of the show care about is selling more seasons to Netflix, and not the conveying of a good story. One has to wonder if the choice of never-ending story is some kind of cynical, self-aware joke. So what do you guys think? You still enjoy the show? Give us your most cynical predictions for next season. We're looking forward to discussing it with you in the comments. If you want to see more from us, we'd appreciate it if you'd help us out by liking the video, and subscribe if you want to get notified whenever we post new videos.